Hi, we're back, and remember constitution@gmail.com. Any questions that anyone wants to send, feel free to send them and I will address them as soon as I can. Which, if I have little emails, every day there'll be a new video. However, if I have thousands of emails, it may take me time to get to yours. We'll see if anyone even really cares about our great Constitution and Amendment and Bill of Rights anymore. Second Amendment. I love this amendment. This one is one that there's so much controversy on, and a lot of people actually avoid it and skirt around it. A well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, first of all, as this is worded, it is really beautiful. A well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma, shall not be infringed, period. It's beautifully written. A lot of people turn around and say, well, that's only for the militia to keep arms, and the militia nowadays is the National Guard. Two problems with that. One, it has a comma after from a free state, and the right of the people to bear arms, comma. So this is for the people, period. It's just it covers a lot in here. And as far as the militia goes, it is not supposed to be government regulated. It's supposed to be for the free state. Now, the National Guard, Army Reserve, Navy Reserve, Marine Reserve, we can go on and on and on and on forever. All these are regulated by the federal government. Some people in the National Guard get offended when they hear that, or used to, until the current Iraq and Afghanistan wars. They realize, no, they don't belong to a state. In fact, the state of Montana at one point in time had tried to recall the National Guard for some forest fires, and the federal government had control of the Montana National Guard at the time while they were in Iraq, and said, no, they're in our control. So, once again, how is that helping for the security of a free state? They're not in the state, they're for the government. Granted, they're still fighting for freedom in another country. However, I think our country needs a little work first. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to take a side on the Afghanistan, the Iraq, maybe soon to be Pakistan and Iran wars and stuff like that. I'm not taking a side on that. We're talking about the Constitution. In fact, I've served my country. And it doesn't matter even if they decide to declare war against the Antarctic. If you're in the service, you're doing your job, point blank. But the freedom to bear arms. Now, some people argue that in here it doesn't say whether you're a convicted felon or not. That is correct, it doesn't. Because to be a free person, period. In fact, England, before we had separated from England, had anyone who wanted freedom was considered a felon in their eyes, of what they considered a felon at the time, and could not have firearms. So when you look at that definition, it's a little different. A lot of people say, well, but still, we got to get the criminals to quit having firearms. You know what? You're right. Except for at the same token, you're forgetting when you make a law, any law, limiting who, how, where, and why someone can get a firearm, and making it harder and harder to get firearms, you know what? You can still get it on the black market. As long as there's companies making firearms, there will always be a way to get it on the black market. In fact, as long as you have blacksmiths, gunsmiths, anyone who's had any work with this, you can still get firearms illegally. However, if there's a criminal, he's going to mug somebody, and half the population has a firearm, he's going to have to find a new career. Point blank. The Columbine school situation, it was very horrific and very sad what had happened. I'm willing to bet you that if every teacher was still required to carry firearms, which they used to be in this country, used to be required to have a firearm, each teaching official, granted this was quite a long time ago, guess what? Those kids wouldn't have gotten far. In fact, those kids would have never even thought of bringing a firearm there, because every teacher was keeping the peace while the children were there. No one would come with a firearm. That would have been the dumbest thing to do. There'd be a lot less kidnappings at schools as well if every teacher was still required to have firearms. Now, if they don't want to require it, that's fine. But once again, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the rights of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, it doesn't say in here a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state that the militia should keep and bear arms, or the National Guard, or anything of this effect. The people. In fact, the Brady Bill had been appealed, and most states had kind of lost their butt on this. Got appealed by the 10th Amendment to protect the bear arms. However, it's the Second Amendment. The second one they came up with, when all of our forefathers and founders who had sat down to write the Bill of Rights came together, it was the very second one they thought of, for a reason. Nowadays, militia has become a bad word. When you hear the word militia, you're like, ooh, there's a Waco, Texas, or something like that, or whatever. And people forget, that's not the bad word. It shouldn't ever be the bad word. A militia is an independent military without ties or under a government to keep freedom. The Minutemen was the first militia that this country had, fighting the Revolutionary War, which was not anyone who was inducted into the Royal Military as it was back then from England, who had decided to, no, we're going to fight for freedom against them. No. There may have been some that had been there, but most of them were just average Joe farmers that says, you know what, we're tired of being taxed where we can't do anything else anymore. We're tired of just getting slapped down, being the little guy. But please feel free to send me any questions, any comments, and if any sincere questions, I will do my best to answer. And I'd also like to start bringing people onto the show later in order to have more diversity. And thank you, and may your Lord bless you.